Alrighty. Let me know if y'all can hear me and see me okay. I've been toying around with OBS settings, so won't be shocked if it's a tad more spotty. But Starlink has been very stable, I'll add. Last live stream I did, there wasn't a single frame dropped. But welcome everyone to Telsa EV live on YouTube. There's a lot I wanted to dive into with Tesla's software and how they're changing Sentry Mode recently. But of course, I need to give a special shout out to the crazy, insanely generous executive and enhanced Tesla fund people that we had sign up for Patreon. I cannot emphasize enough how little I was expecting so many people to go for those those tiers that I thought would not be very popular ended up being far more popular. So I have to give some special shout outs here. We've got the Executive Tesla Fund in red and the Enhanced Tesla Fund in green. So you'll have to thank my wife because she has much better handwriting than I did, so she wrote these out. But Joshua Vinnick, Martin Turnert, I had looked up how to say this earlier today, and I completely blanking now. Wojciech Kaminski? Hopefully I'm getting that right. Just correct me on Twitter. Planet Tex as well. Jacob Halbach, Bennett Williams, Joshua Levitsky, and Dylan Zimmer. Oh my God, you guys are insanely generous. So thank you very much for your support. I'm just going to leave this off in the background here, but this is my first live stream now that the Tesla plan has dropped. You guys are now in the loop. Oh, whoa. Mohammed just supercharged the channel. That was really nice of you. So for those unaware, that's another way you can help me save up for our dream Tesla, the Model Y. We're not exactly sure which trim will be out by the time we're ready. But yeah, I was hoping to I was hoping to answer any of those questions as well. If there were any subjects or any topics that you felt I didn't address quite enough in my when am I getting a Tesla video. But yeah, it's been overwhelming to see how much support and how much help we've gotten already just in the early days. It's warmed my heart, and I'm happy to shout out you guys, and I'm still in contact with several of them trying to find a good time for the collabs to begin. But yeah, I think this community's awesome. I love chatting with you guys, and I love talking about EVs. So knowing that inevitable future of actually being able to cover these news updates and being able to talk about what Tesla rolls out via software and what they are planning behind the scenes and what could happen and speculating. This is all really, really fun. So I'm thankful that the video was so well received, and I don't think most people took it the wrong way, but I've got a lot of financial advice so far, which I always find funny because whenever we're doing live streams or we're recording podcasts and stuff like that, I always hear a bunch of people say, well, Drew, make sure you don't say it's financial advice. You know, you always got to disclose. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research. This is not financial advice. We always hear all about people not disclosing that. However, in the comment section, people give tons of financial advice. Everyone had their own ideas, and a lot of people's ideas were contradictory, which made me laugh. But hopefully get a Texas-built one with 4680s. That would be awesome. I'm hoping that's the case that ends up happening, because I would love to prove kind of long-term how the 4680 batteries age, because I don't know if I emphasized it enough in my video. I couldn't include everything in that one video, but I'm going to get to the subject of this live stream in a second, I promise, but I just want to answer your guys' questions. I'm totally fine with a standard range Model Y because I'm willing to kind of demonstrate and show people like you can get by with standard range, and I'm not trying to make the case that everyone needs 300 or 400 miles on their Tesla. However, obviously, if that option is there and it's affordable, then sure, I'll take a Tesla with long range. But I've done the math. I've seen and read tons of reviews of people who have standard range Teslas, and it's really not as big a deal as people make it out to be. Yes, EVs in general have lower total range than gas vehicles, but I always remind everyone that range is from the gas vehicle range is from the pump, whereas the EV range is from your house, assuming you have home charging, which most people do. When you get a Tesla, will you subscribe to FSD when you want it or buy it outright? I think we were doing a lot of the math, and the truth is the price of full self-driving may change by the time we're ready to make the purchase. And I think we want to subscribe because there's also a lot of plans we're making right now just for next year, but we're planning on we're planning on doing more trips, but already there's going to be a lot of times where we probably spend several weeks or maybe even a month or two away from the Tesla because we're going to be visiting Louise's family or my family, and some of those trips we'll be able to drive the car to, but other trips, like, we're not going to be able to drive the Tesla to Europe. We're not going to be able to drive it to Australia. As much as I may want to, I don't think the buoyancy of the Tesla will hold us over that long. So basically what I'm trying to say is I'm interested in subscribing to FSD. I definitely want to try out full self-driving, but I don't see much incentive to buying it outright because, first of all, this is the point I was trying to make earlier. We want to own this vehicle that we're buying for a very, very long time. My goal with this channel is not to buy a Model Y and then next year we'll buy a Tesla Semi and then we'll buy a Cybertruck and then we'll buy a Rivian. Like, I don't want to be a car guy that collects vehicles and has a bunch of cars in my garage. I'm the type of guy already right now where I'm just like, I want one car. And I want to hold on to that car for decades. And I don't care if it's LFP. I don't care if it's standard range. I don't care if it's 4680. Like, whatever the more affordable option is, I'm going to take that one because we're not planning on updating it, frequently and all the time. And I know many people would say that's a reason to buy FSD outright, but the way I view it is it basically starts to save you money after... If you were to subscribe to full self-driving every single month, you would start to save money by buying it outright. If you subscribed every month, 12 months a year for like over 4 years. And I expect that ratio to mostly stay the same. Like, I could see full self-driving getting more expensive, upright. What did I say? Upright. Buying it outright, I could see getting more expensive, and simultaneously the monthly subscription will probably go up too. But if you're not planning on subscribing to it every single month all year, which we're not, with our lifestyle and with our driving habits, I think we would subscribe to it maybe 3 months out of the year. Then that turns into, okay, buying it outright would save money if you own it for 12 plus years. But the difference is that's a really, really long time. And if I have $10,000 now that I could put towards full self-driving, the other option I see it as, because we spend a lot of our savings on investing and putting it towards stocks and that type of thing so that we can have, our assets appreciate and our investments go up over time. I could either buy full self-driving now for $10,000, or I could subscribe to it for $200 and invest $9,800 and look at how much growth you'll have in that $9,800 within the next 12 years, which is the amount of time it would take before it's actually cheaper to buy outright. So that kind of eats into the savings. And also, I'm pretty confident right now that full self-driving is going to be more expensive later, but I have in its current state, like, it doesn't stay with the car. It doesn't stay with the account. It doesn't stay with the owner. It stays with the car. And there's always the chance that if you get into an accident and the vehicle is totaled, the insurance doesn't necessarily have to provide you full self-driving again, at least from what I've seen. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but from the research I've detected, if you buy a Tesla, even with Tesla insurance, if you buy a Tesla with full self-driving and you get in an accident, they replace the car, but they don't give you full self-driving back. So you'd have to buy it a second time. So that kind of like attachment to the vehicle kind of makes it less appealing to me because of how expensive it is up front, and I would rather just invest that money. So, yeah. I hope that answers your question. But since you're going to keep the car for a long time, it's worth getting the 4680s because it's a 1,000,000-mile battery. Well, Mohammed, the LFP technically is too. If you've seen the cycle life tests of the lithium iron phosphate battery, you can you can get that thing easily to 1 million miles. And honestly, we're not seeing a ton of degradation on Teslas with 400,000 and 500,000 miles. So yes, I do plan on, no matter which car we get, I don't care if it's standard or long range. We're gonna get some long-term reviews out of it, because this is definitely like a one-time thing. One perk though for a subscription is if some dude crashes into it, you don't feel like you lost an additional 10,000. Yeah, that would make me feel awkward, because I have belief that I'm a safe driver. I don't know what my safety score would be, but I'd be very curious. Although I know it's completely possible that I could get into an accident with the Tesla and not get that full self-driving back, which would annoy the crap out of me. I know that FSD kind of preserves your resale value, but that makes no difference to me, because we don't plan on selling this car. We plan on buying it and keeping it for, as long as the car will last, basically, until the batteries are fried. I don't know if that's 20 years or 30 years. But yes, I would be interested in paying for upgrades of like the MCU, like they've been offering in the Model S. Like you can pay money to swap it out with a faster computer, get full self-driving computers. Now Elon's saying they're going to have to update the cameras on some of the older Teslas. All that I'd be willing to pay for. I'll drop $2,000 or $5,000 on an MCU upgrade to make the display and software interact faster, because I don't think most people are accustomed to holding on to a computer for 20, 30 years, but with the cycle life of these batteries, I'm comfortable holding on to it for that long. Basically, I'm just trying to say this is not like a stopgap vehicle. This is not a vehicle we're planning on like, this will hold us over until we're ready to buy the next thing. It's like, no, we're just going to get it and call it good, which is why we're basically interested in, if it's 2170 cells, we want it to be long range, and if it's standard range, we want it to be a lithium iron phosphate. And then, of course, ideally, we can get 4680 batteries when those are available. But there's so much we don't know yet about how the Model Y lineup is going to change. But I feel like it has to change a lot next year, considering Giga Texas is coming online, and they expect that to ramp as the year goes on. And Elon is still expecting the Model Y to become the best-selling vehicle. And I'm like, okay, if that's true, there's no way it's going to be $57,000 starting. Which, for those curious, that's why we haven't reserved one yet. That was a very common comment. Well, you should just order one now. And I'm like, the one you order now has 2170 cells, and it's $57,000. It's literally never been more expensive. So there's not much you're like locking in. And if there's the off chance that it turns out 57 is actually a bargain, and every Model Y next year is actually going to cost 60,000 or more, I don't know. We'll probably look at other options if that ends up being the case. I don't think that's going to happen, but on the off chance that it does, we would probably look at a Model 3 or something else. Fair to disclose that we're fully not really expecting to take delivery of the vehicle next year. Probably at least get our order in. But depending on how much we can save, keep in mind, all the revenue this channel generates is going towards the Tesla Fund. Anything you guys super chat, or if you become a YouTube member, that's all helping us immensely. So thank you. It helps us accelerate this timeline. If things go well, we could be ordering one by summer. If things go okay, we could be ordering one by the end of next year. Yeah, Mohammed's like, there's always the used market. The sad fact is that the used vehicles are more expensive than the new vehicles. So I'm totally down, for the record, I'm totally down to buy a used Tesla. I don't care if someone else owned it. I don't care if it's got miles on it, because I know it's electric and there's so little things that can go wrong. So I don't care about used as long as it's cheaper. And so far, I've been looking around on the used market. They are not cheaper. The cheapest way to get a Model Y is new, unfortunately. Opt for an Aptera by the end of next year if Model Y doesn't work out. Well, I basically will accept an Aptera as soon as they're available. Like, they're not in production yet, but I will take delivery of one ASAP. Try apply for a career at Tesla. I think employees get fed for free, and you also help build the future. I'm not useful to Tesla, is my theory, but I've often questioned my usefulness in the world. As a YouTuber, like I've had lots of positive comments and lots of people say, we appreciate what you're doing, but sometimes I still have that moment where I'm like, why, what am I doing? Like the world needs more engineers. Those are so more valuable. And I'm here just rambling online about what I think could happen or what I would like to happen. Like, is this helpful? Like, why does anybody care? I don't know, but anyway, I do want to address. Yes, sorry, I've taken 15 minutes at the beginning of this stream to talk about other things, but Tesla Sentry Mode live feature has actually been demonstrated in the wild. So you have to be on the latest Tesla build. The software update is staggered, at least as I've seen in the past. It doesn't come out to every single vehicle simultaneously, but it does come in waves, and someone is now showing one off. I've got the video of it working here. But basically, as long as your phone app is on the latest version and your Tesla is on the latest version, you can go into security settings, click on Sentry Mode Live. This is, again, if you have premium connectivity, and then you can just select the angle. So this is something I wasn't sure about. You can literally switch from which perspective you want to see, and it will send a live broadcast of the car in its current state. So, like, that is... Already, Sentry Mode was kind of unmatched. There was like barely anything else on the car market that had something like this. And now Tesla is rolling out live streaming support. And as far as I can tell, based on these early screenshots and these early videos, there's no limit, which kind of blew my mind. Maybe there's a pop-up someone hasn't discovered yet, but I've been following the story fairly closely. So you need the iOS mobile app of 4.2.1 for this to work, and also the Tesla software update 21.36.8. So not everybody gets it at the same time, so that's why, in case some of you are wondering, why isn't it showing up in my phone? It comes in waves. I don't know why Tesla does it like that. It's just what I've seen. Like, certain people will get updates before others do. So I think that feature is absolutely incredible because... First of all, it justifies the premium connectivity package so much more. Like, that was $10 a month, which is pretty standard, like on most watches or iPads. If you want to add a cellular plan to them, it's an extra $10 a month, sometimes more. But the main reason Tesla did that is because, the cellular data Tesla accesses and gives their customers access to through their vehicles, that's not free. They have to pay for that. It's not like they've already invested in cell towers or something. They have not. They're piggybacking, I believe, off of AT&T is what the cars use. They might have changed it up more recently. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's AT&T. And I'm fairly certain with contracts like that, the more data you consume, essentially, the more you have to pay for. So premium connectivity is not like a profitable service for Tesla, in my view. At least according to the last earnings, software revenue had not really taken off, and I don't think that there's much profit involved with the $10 a month. If anything, I think premium connectivity is actually lowering the damages, especially now that they're rolling out Sentry Mode Live View, because that means there's a chance of people opening up Sentry Mode on their phone, looking at their camera's view, and just because they're paranoid, I don't blame them. I'm probably going to be this way when we get our Teslas. I'm going to be looking at what's going on around the vehicle if I'm parked in a public place or something. And I'm just going to be checking it out all the time just to make sure no one's around, no one's messing with the car or anything like that. And I believe there was even some software in reference to like viewing Sentry Mode incidents off the phone. So you'll be able to stream what was recorded in the car to the phone. That's going to use data. Luckily, it seems, not luckily, but I mean, fortunately, it looks like pretty low quality footage. Like, I'll zoom in on it here. It's not a very high frame rate. And it's not a very high resolution. I think this could easily be like 240p. As you can see, it's kind of choppy. It's probably like 240p at 10 frames a second or 8 frames a second. So that would use a decent amount of data. I mean, it's not nothing, but probably not as much as someone just binging Netflix in their Tesla. That can run up the data bill. So my prediction, again, is that premium connectivity does not profit Tesla at all. It just lowers the expense. So this is a feature I could totally see a ton of people willing to pay $10 a month for. Granted, there's other things you get with it. Before Sentry Mode Live came out, the reasons to get a premium connectivity on your car is so that when you're out and about, you can access the web and look up sites, or you can play YouTube or play Netflix or play Disney Plus now. You could stream content directly to the car even when you're no longer on Wi-Fi. So kind of useful. Some people might use that, but other people are probably just like, I use my phone. I already pay for the data plan on my phone. But now that there's a feature that's very, very difficult to emulate, I think that was probably the main reason people didn't want to pay for premium connectivity, is they were like, okay, it'd be kind of nice to watch videos or stream Netflix or Disney Plus to my car's display, but I could also, I believe now you can hotspot off the phone. So you can just connect your car to your phone's mobile hotspot, which most people have a decent amount of data on their phone plan, or they can just watch YouTube on their phone because that probably is faster and they don't have to enter Tesla theater mode and press all these buttons. But the Sentry Mode live view thing is something not easily recreatable. There's not like a simple way to just live broadcast from your car's cameras. So that's something I could see a ton of people now opting for, and I'm very, very curious of what the take rate is going to be for premium connectivity now that this feature is out. Like, I'm very, very interested. Let's see. Dominique Goen says, I bought a 2020 Model 3 Performance with 9,000 miles for a little less than new at $53,000. Well, that's good. Good for you. Yeah, I think that there's probably more cost savings if you're willing to go with a higher end model. I've noticed that in the used market. Like, hey, this is cheap. This performance model is cheaper than a new performance model. What I'm not seeing much depreciation on, if anything, I'm actually seeing appreciation on. The value of the used vehicles increasing is the cheaper models, which unfortunately is the boat we're in, because I could literally not care less about the performance of the car. Like, if you guys knew if you guys knew how slow my current car was, you'd be like, I'll take a single motor Tesla. I'll take a downclocked Tesla if they wanted to sell one for cheaper, but the 0 to 60 was 10 seconds. I would take that one. I could not care less about performance. And really, we don't even care much about range. I mean, obviously, it's nice to have some more, but I really would not mind showing people like, hey, you can live with standard range Teslas and do road trips. I think that's another misconception, is that you need the long range for road trips. It's like, how much time are you really saving by going with a long range Tesla versus a standard range? Now that we have lithium iron phosphate in all the standard range models, you don't really have the argument of long range is good for, the battery health, because the battery health will slowly get worse and worse as years go by. So that means you should opt for a long range. But I would agree that's the case for 2170 cells. Like, another potential option that I would be super duper interested in is if Tesla brought back the long range rear wheel drive Model Y. That's one of the possibilities I'm toying around with in my head, is like, maybe Giga Texas starts producing 4680 Model Ys. So that kind of replaces the long range and performance models. Then Fremont can designate all of their production to long range rear wheel drive Model Y with 2170 cells. I'm okay with the 2170 cells as long as it's a longer range option. Sorry, there's helicopters flying around. That's weird. My wife works at Tesla, and we get the Model Y delivered in April. Will be delivered in April. Good for you. So there's no accelerated timelines, I'm guessing, based on employees. That doesn't shock me. Would you say over time you been more of a Tesla fan or Apple? I think I've been an Apple fan ever since I was a kid. Like, even when I was in like second or third grade, I was really into iPods and using my dad's Mac at the time. But more recently, I've definitely caught up to Tesla. It's Randy and Nick's fault, though, from the Delos of Tech and EV podcasts. They got me behind the wheel of a Model 3, and I finally drove one around. I knew about them. I was always mildly interested in electric vehicles. I wasn't like, I need to buy one ASAP, but I was like, yeah, that's cool. I hope they get cheaper. But then I got behind the wheel of a Tesla, and I was like, oh, okay. We better start saving, So we better got more invested and started following them more closely. And that's, when I started doing more videos about them. And then when the Cybertruck came out, I was like, okay, this is a crazy industry, and it's changing a lot, and it's changing fast. So I think I want to do a separate channel just for EV stuff because I think it's more interesting. I only wanted a standard range, but the deal was too good to pass up. Yeah, that's fair. If there, let's see. I know Tim is swinging the air right now for not buying Tesla. I'm glad he didn't, but yeah, it would have been a very, very weird world. I don't think it would have been a better one, to be honest. If Apple bought Tesla, the focus would be on making the best electric car ever, whereas Tesla's goal is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. So I feel like Tesla has more motivation to lower prices and to increase manufacturing capacity and to build more solar and Powerwall and Megapack products. So I feel like it's a good thing that Tesla's their own company now. Yeah, Karen, it's a slow rollout. So everyone doesn't get the update simultaneously, but the first wave of Teslas that did get Sentry Mode live have started getting it, as we now have public, this is not an employee screen recording, but we now have documented cases of how the new Sentry Mode feature works out in the wild from a customer. So it's a slow rollout, but it is going. Cole Crawford says, I drove a standard range plus and the 0 to 60 is fast enough. I want a standard range plus, not knowing how fast it is. Yeah, I don't care at all because I'm never going to do 0 to 60 unless I'm intentionally trying to show how fast it is. But aside from that, I would never accelerate like that, especially now that I'm seeing how Tesla software is scaling to support the safety score impacting your insurance rates. That's a really, really big deal to me because one thing that I thought I would disclose also in this stream, didn't have time to bring it in the when am I getting a Tesla video, but unfortunately, the Tesla is not cheaper to own than our current vehicle, primarily because of insurance. Like, yes, gasoline is expensive where I live. Luckily, we live kind of out far away from the major cities where gas is much more expensive. So because we're in more of a rural area, it's not like as bad as some people were saying. Like I saw some people in my comment section or on Twitter saying like gas in California is $5-6 a gallon. It's not that bad here, but it's still higher than the US average. And I'm sure that charging the Tesla from home or supercharging the Tesla would be objectively cheaper than gasoline. But our current vehicle is so dang cheap because it's worth $3,000 that the insurance is about $35 a month. And we've looked around at quotes for California Tesla insurance, and getting a Model Y insurance premium on the roads where we are, it's pretty dang difficult to get it under $100 a month. So we've weighed out the cost of how much we spend on gasoline versus how much we'd spend on charging, and there's not much cost savings here. Especially if nothing changes much with Tesla insurance quotes. I'm not talking about Geico or Progressive. I'm talking from Tesla Insurance. It's very, very difficult to find anybody who can get their insurance premiums under $100 a month. In fact, I'm seeing quite a bit that are at like 110, 120, 140. So basically all the money we'll save from not buying gas will go directly towards insurance. Plus there's higher registration fees, which is classic California for you. Because there's a lot of taxes that pay for the roads and the highways in California, and you pay for those taxes through paying for gasoline. When you don't pay for gas, now that you own an electric vehicle, they charge you more for the registration every single year. So the cost to register our current car is pretty cheap relative to how much it costs to register a Tesla every year. So unfortunately, it's not cheaper to operate. So I that argument of, but Drew, just buy a Tesla because you'll save money in the long run than paying for gas. It's like, no, even after 30 years, our current car would still technically be cheaper, but it would be worse because bad for the environment, less safe, no software. My current car doesn't even have a display. It's older than the first iPhone. It's very old. It's getting old. it feels weird for me to say my current car is old just because I have several friends with even older cars. What's funny is my good friend Ross has I think it's an Lexus ES 200 or something like that. But basically, it's turning 30 years old this year or next year, and he has less miles on his car than we have on ours, despite it being 14 years old. Our car is 14 years old, so his car is almost twice the age of our car, and it has less miles on it, which is funny. Gas prices can get worse. Well, if you know where I live, hopefully no one does, but electricity prices can also get much worse. And, beforehand, we were kind of hoping, Tesla will get cheaper because I'll use my referral code in the description and I can rake up some free supercharging miles, but that's all been taken away. So we're not going to get any free supercharging when we get our Tesla. Austin says, from your last video, you said you want the Model Y and might order one next December. What specs and add-ons interest you most? I tried to emphasize that in the video. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. I really couldn't care less. I don't care what color it is. I don't care what tires it have. I just want the cheapest one because the cheaper one means I get it sooner. Honestly, I've heard a handful of downsides to having the larger rims. Like the larger tires are more prone to getting flats, and there's less of them in circulation. So like a friend of mine, Sam from iUpdate, he bought a Model 3 with 19-inch sport wheels, and he got a flat in the middle of a road trip, and they didn't have any 19-inch sport wheels available for him. They had lots of 18-inch aero wheels available, but I've also read that the larger wheels have a bit more of a bumpy, springy ride. They're not as smooth. They're not as comfortable on bumps and stuff. So I would, if anything, rather have the smallest tires possible. Objectively, if all the paint colors were the same, I would still probably choose white, to be honest. Like, if they change the free color to black, I'll take black. But if it didn't matter, I think the white look looks awesome. I really, really dig that contrast of the black trim with the black door handles. I've checked out in person pretty close up of what the white Model Ys look like the 7-seater Model Y we did a test on. Sorry, not a video on a while back. I love the way it looks. Our current car is white. I don't. If there was one other color I would choose, maybe like red, or if they brought back silver, which it sounds like they're going to, at least at Giga Berlin. Not sure if they will in Texas, but I like the silver Model Y look. So if that became free, I would definitely take it. 18s and 20s on the Teslas are more prevalent than 19s and 21s. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I know that at the time when Sam got his flat, this was before the Model Y came out. So I currently drive a Hyundai Sonata from like 2006. It's very old. It was basically our family car. To give you a bit of a backstory on it, we bought it when I was like in middle school, and then my sister moved to LA to go to college, to go to film school, and she took that car with her, and then she later met a guy there, got married, and is now living I don't want to dox them. I'm not trying to reveal. They live out of state. They don't live in California anymore. That's all I'll say. They live somewhere else, and they took that car with them, but they happen to live in a more northern climate where it gets a lot more snow, and the roads get a lot of black ice, and they get a lot more slippery. So they didn't want the Hyundai Sonata anymore because they wanted a vehicle with four-wheel drive. So they bought one, and then they were like, okay, we don't need the Sonata anymore. We're looking for a buyer. And at the same time they were trying to sell that car, the only car I was driving around, which was a 2000 Ford Ranger, which I loved that truck. It had a decent amount of bed space. You could legally sit 5 people in it, and yet it was like the size of my Sonata. It was not a big truck at all. It's pretty much as small as a pickup truck gets here, and they don't make any trucks that size anymore. But that truck had a head gasket blowout, and we spent like $1,000 or $2,000 on fixing the head gasket, and then like 2 months after we fixed it, the transmission went out, and it couldn't go backwards. So there were several times where I had to like put it in neutral and push it out of the parking space. So I'm basically just trying to tell you, my family and me in specific has never really been spending lots of money on cars. other than repairs. We've never been like, let's buy a really nice, I don't know, Volkswagen such and such. And I've never spent more. Technically, I mean, it's kind of hazy if I've ever spent money on the car. Basically, there was a college fund that my parents had saved up, and when they decided, when I decided I didn't want to go to college, they were like, okay, let's just use your college fund on your next car because the Ford Ranger's crap and it's not working anymore. So they bought the Sonata back from my sister for, I think they paid like $3,000 for it. It wasn't much. And I've had that car since high school, and we're still driving it to this day. So yeah, I have a laptop and an iMac on this desk that have costed more, each have costed more than my current car. So we've never been the type, I didn't want anybody out there thinking, because, I've seen some channels out there, I'm not going to drop names, but there's some channels out there that are like huge Tesla fans, and they brag about Tesla and how much they love Tesla, but within like the last year or two have bought like $18,000 or $20,000 gas cars. And I'm like, come on, that if you're spending 18 or 20 grand on a gas car, then you can make the argument more easily about insurance and gas adding up to more than a Tesla. So yeah, like my advice to most people right now is don't spend any more than probably $7,000 on a car that runs on gasoline. You should either be saving up for an electric vehicle or finding the cheapest used car you can to get you from point A to point B until you can buy, because all of that money you'd spend on an $18,000 or $20,000 gas vehicle, all that is going to go is money that could be going towards far better electric vehicle that's going to come out soon that will outperform your current pickup truck in a matter of weeks. So I think Andrew from the Waveform podcast brought up a good point in a question. Basically, a gas car is not a good long-term investment, in my opinion. Gas cars right now should be stopgaps. They should be like, this holds us over. This gets me by until the EV I want is ready, whether it's a F-150 Lightning or a Rivian or a Cybertruck, any of that stuff. That's where you should be dropping real money on cars. Not so much. Don't be dropping tons of money on gas cars right now. I don't think it's a good idea, especially with the price of gas going up. And I think the EV transition is getting more and more serious. I especially recommend that, considering a lot of most people own cars for like 8 to 12 years. And I think a lot is going to change in the auto industry in the next 8 to 12 years. Smaller wheels are definitely smoother. I tried my friend's 18-inch. Nice. Okay, I believe that. In that case, I want the smallest wheels possible. I mean, aesthetically, I love the look of the performance tires. I think the Performance Model 3 or the Performance Model Y tires look great, but I don't want a more stiff ride. I'm not going to be staring at the outside of the car that much. XP8 says, we have a long-range Tesla Model 3 and a Ford Focus EV. We live in San Diego. We have Tesla insurance on both cars and pay only $72 a month. That's good. That's one of the lower ones I've seen in a while. It seems like the insurance rates for the 3 are lower. I'm hoping the rates of the Y go down, because ideally we still want a Y. I guess I didn't explain the why behind that in the video, so I can go behind that. But essentially, me and my wife want to do a lot of car camping. There's a lot of road trips we want to take where we just want to sleep in the car and not book a hotel or not go to a campsite or anything. Just find a quiet parking area where there's not a lot of people and just sleep in the back. We've actually slept in our current car. Well, she slept. I didn't. I'm a picky sleeper. I have to be in a very comfortable space in mental space in order to fall asleep. My wife has a superpower. She can like fall asleep anywhere, but I've laid down in the back of the Model Y, and it's far more comfortable. You've got far more space back there. You can do it in the Model 3, but the other thing is I want to do more bike rides. I've gone on a lot of bike rides, but we've had more rain recently, so it's been harder. But and I know that it's easier to get a tow hitch on a Model Y. I'm well aware you can get a tow hitch on a Model 3, but not from Tesla. You have to take apart the whole back bumper and disconnect a bunch of wires and stuff. So I know we technically could get a tow hitch on a 3, but I would rather get it on a Y. I prefer the ride height too. Like, getting into the Y is so much easier. The Model 3 is actually smaller than our Sonata. It's got less storage space than our current car. When will we get the new update to livestream Sentry Mode? It should be anytime in the next couple weeks. A few people have already gotten it. Tesla rolls out their software in waves, so it doesn't all come out at once. But if you haven't gotten the latest update for your car and the phone app yet, I would assume within the next 2 weeks, right? How old are you two? I'm 23. She's 24. In Sweden, petrol costs about $8.40 per gallon. My God. A new Tesla Model 3 is $64,000. I just got one secondhand with FSD. Like it a lot. Congratulations. That's awesome. I'm glad that you got some deals on some secondhand ones. If they were cheaper to get secondhand, I totally would get one. Jordan says, did you consider getting an Aptera when you decided to start a fund for an electric car? They seem promising. Yeah, I am very interested in the Aptera. I'm trying not to get too excited because the Aptera would certainly fit our lifestyle very, very well because we live in a very sunny climate and we don't have kids. We rarely drive with 3 people in the car. It's usually just me and my wife. But I'm not necessarily making a ton of plans around the Aptera because they're still barely out of the alpha phase. And I'm going to wait and see if they can hit those prices, because right now, like, they're a startup. Keep in mind, they haven't delivered a product, and I'm very excited for what they have shown their target is. Like, they've shown this is what range options we're going to have. This is what price options we're going to have. So if they can deliver on those prices with those range numbers, we could start actually making some plans about the Aptera. I'm not against getting an Aptera and a Tesla. I'm not sure if we have a need for 2, but if they actually started delivering vehicles, I don't want to give too much away, but they do have a referral program that we've been in contact with Aptera with. So basically, if they can start producing and delivering vehicles, there's a decent likelihood I should be able to get my hands on one pretty quick. But what version did the car that is in the video have? Not sure if it showed it. I believe the beginning of the video showed his address, so I cut out part of it. But I believe it's 2021.36.8, and then on the iOS mobile app, you need 4.2.1. And you also need premium connectivity, so make sure you have that. Not sure about Tesla insurance, but age plays a big factor with insurance. 25 is the magic number for lower rates. See, that's a reason we might want to wait. My wife will turn 25 in, I guess, 4 or 5 months. So maybe we'll get lower rates with her, but I'm not going to turn 25 until 2023. So hopefully we don't get a big premium there. Who will be the first legacy auto to collapse? I feel like Toyota is not moving fast enough. Like, honestly, most legacy auto is not doing enough right now, but I feel like Ford has a plan for electric vehicles. GM has a plan. It's not a great plan, but they've got a plan to ramp up electric vehicle production. And VW is making aggressive moves on electrification, and they seem to believe it's the future. But Toyota, I feel like, just can't get their crap together. And I think that there's only so much speed and there's only so much EV production you can catch up with. So I would not be shocked if Toyota kind of falls behind everybody. It feels like, in terms of electric vehicles, they're kind of behind. I hope Rivian goes big. We need real competition. Me too. I was not too excited to find out that their current production rate at their factory is like 1 truck a day. That's like not very good at all. And they certainly need to ramp up fast. And I think that the production hell that Rivian and Lucid have to go through has yet to be realized. Like, I think a lot of people think as soon as these EV startups or as soon as Legacy Auto suddenly delivers a vehicle, that means they're a Tesla contender and they're competition to Tesla. As long as Tesla can't catch up on their orders, there is literally no threat. There is the only threat, I guess, is time. That no one is a threat to Tesla. It doesn't even matter if someone else comes out with a $20,000 EV that goes 500 miles on a charge. If Tesla can't catch up on their orders, they have no threat. They literally will sell every single car they build for the next, like, 8 to 9 months. They have no short of demand. So Tesla initially, ALS built around 1 to 2 cars a day, absolutely normal. Yeah, but those were like 200,000 or well over $100,000 cars, whereas Rivian's trucks are, I'm pretty sure all of them are sub 100,000. Also, the Roadster is a much smaller market. You know, it's a less competitive market. The Roadster started out with 1 to 2 cars a day, I know, but that was a very different EV space than we're in now. Like the F-150 Lightning, I'm pretty confident will produce more than one truck per day. Same thing with the Cybertruck. Sorry for the lag. Starlink is looking for a satellite. I tried to up it to a higher bit rate today to see how it would do. It's mostly been fine. Okay, it seems to be stabilizing there. Honda as well. Yeah, I feel like Honda's not doing enough, but hydrogen fuel cells are a thing if Toyota is investing in research heavily enough. I think the fact that Toyota has done hydrogen fuel cells is proof that they haven't done enough research. If you had done your research correctly, you wouldn't be investing in fuel cells. They're a waste of time. Like in a closed box scenario, it may seem practical of, okay, I can refuel the car quickly and it goes pretty far, has a decent amount of range, but the infrastructure is astronomically more expensive than the EV infrastructure. We had EV1 in the 90s. Yeah, the GM took them all back and crushed them. R1T can be optioned to just a hair over 100. Yeah, but most of them I'm sure are not over. I'm rooting for them. I want Rivian to do well. I'm just saying the production rate of one vehicle a day is not very good. Saying that the Tesla Roadster in 2008 was one vehicle a day does not excuse a 2021 pickup truck being one vehicle a day. Because the Roadster sold an incredibly low volume compared to what pickup trucks are going to sell at. F-150 Lightning is, I can almost guarantee, going to do more than one truck a day. Cybertruck most definitely is going to do more than one truck a day once it comes out. The Roadster was a very limited time production rate, so I don't think it's a good example of what to start at. Like Rivian is already many years behind what they originally wanted to deliver vehicles at. So I'm hoping that was just a short-term thing, but I certainly would say they got to get those production rate numbers up. Toyota doesn't want to invest in EV because they're salty they bailed from their Tesla investment. If you've done just any slight lick of research on hydrogen fuel cells, you'd realize that it's very impractical to scale the entire global fleet to fuel cells. At best, maybe there would be, this is still a stretch. Maybe there would be a slight advantage to fuel cells for Class 8 heavy-duty trucking, but that's not what Toyota was getting into. They were trying to make fuel cells into like the next generation Prius. The Lightning does look good, but when gas is $5+ a gallon, looks take second string. Yeah. I think the gas savings alone will justify the higher price of the F-150 Lightning. Ford will also sell every F-150 Lightning they make. I think there's a ton of people interested in that one. I know it's not Tesla related, but the new F-150 Lightning looks sick. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's fine. I think they probably did what was best for Ford. Like from a consumer's perspective, I don't find it a particularly exciting or intriguing design. I see a ton of F-150s, newer ones around where I live, just because I live in a more rural area. Pickup trucks are super duper common. They're like more common than sedans around here. And I got to be honest, many of the F-150s I've seen are very hard to tell the difference between them and a Lightning. Like there's just a few slight changes with the light bar that would identify a Lightning. So, yeah, I feel like it's going to be hard for me to tell. I'm basically trying to say I won't know if I'm looking at a Lightning the first time I see one. Probably the first time I see one, I'll be driving down the highway and a Lightning will drive by. It will drive by and I'll be like, I wonder if that was a Lightning. It's kind of hard to tell. But a Rivian, I'll know instantly. A Cybertruck, I'll know instantly. Electric Hummer even, I think, will be pretty identifiable. It has a very iconic, different look from the old Hummers. I still see Hummers occasionally. I'm like, why? Why did people buy that? The Lightning looks like every other F-150 in my view. It's like slightly different. But yes, I own Tesla stock, Philip. How's Starling doing? Much, much better. It's been getting more stable in recent months. We're having a few more frames dropped on this live stream, but I was kind of expecting that because I upped my bit rate to be a tad higher. Normally, I live stream at 2,000 kilobits per second, but on my last Talos of Tech stream, I was live for like 94 minutes and there wasn't a single frame dropped. So I was like, okay, well, if the connection's getting that stable, let me up it. So right now I'm streaming at 3,000 kilobits per second, and we're getting about 0.6% frame drop, so it is resulting in a little bit of lag, but it's very, very minor. There was even frame drops on Comcast back when we had that. Cheapest Rivian is $73,000. That's not technically true. I believe there's a not launch edition, but like Explorer package that's like $67,500. And that doesn't even include the federal tax credit. I think the cheapest one that you can get sooner is 73,000 or something like that. We ordered the R1S. We'll see how it does against the Y. Yeah, I would be far more interested in R1S personally. But I do love the Rivian, to be honest. Like if I was in the market for a pickup truck, as much as I appreciate and love the Cybertruck, I don't love the size. I've driven and been in big trucks like that many times in the past, and I would much rather drive a Toyota Tacoma-sized truck, which the Rivian is closer to, and the Cybertruck is more like F-150 size, which I'm not as into. So, dang, how does these bugs get in here? Weird. The range to kilowatt ratio on the Lightning will be bad. My guess around 60 to 80 miles per gallon equivalent. Yeah, I don't expect it. It's probably, I think it's heavier than the Rivian. And I'm sure it's not using a structural pack or exoskeleton design. I wouldn't be shocked if it's below the Rivian's efficiency, considering how bad the range is, and I'm sure it uses a gigantic battery pack. I'm going to guess closer to 60 miles per gallon equivalent. What's the resolution on? 1080p. I think Canoo is producing the lifestyle van by end of next year, get the best of both worlds, being cheap and utility. That's another one where it's just like, yeah, if Tesla can't keep their prices low, then I have little faith in the EV startups keeping their prices low, because Tesla's not raising their prices for no reason. Part of it is demand, but I also think part of it is suppliers raising their rates and inflation hitting these big cars. So I have a hard time believing that as Tesla prices go up, somehow Canoo and Aptera are all going to lock in their prices at the same amount. Is Ford using the same battery pack as Rivian? I don't think like exactly, because I'm pretty sure Rivian is using their own custom packs, but probably similar tech. Yeah, I agree, Gerg, whatever your name is. Small trucks are underrated. When it worked, it didn't work all that much, but when it worked, I really loved the size and the practicality of my Ford Ranger. Like it had these really tiny crammed seats in the back, but I could fit 3 people up front, because the center armrest would fold upward. And there were several times me and my friends in high school, we would all just jump in that Ranger and we'd fit like 4 to 5 people in there. And the bed wasn't that tiny either. It was probably like a 4.5 or 5 foot bed. And we would throw, when we were filming stuff, we would throw tripods and lights and backpacks, and we would just throw it in the bed. And it was so easy to park. It was such a little truck. It was, again, probably about the same length as my Sonata. It was just smaller, and I guess those didn't sell as well because the new the new Ford Ranger is not as small as the one I had. The new Ford Ranger they're making now is like more like a Tacoma sized, which is better. I've driven my dad's Tacoma quite a bit, and I like that size a lot more, but it's still higher off the ground than the Ford Ranger. I think I briefly saw the new Edison Future truck, but I know nothing about it. I read that. I saw Marquez Brownlee's review, and now I love the Rivian too. I only prefer the Cybertruck for the better looks and durability, but I'd love to own a Rivian. Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Like, whoa! Holy crap, let's see if that super chat shows up on the animation here. I don't know if anyone's ever activated this before. I'm nervous. Cedric, thank you for the super chat. It should be an overlay shortly. Give it a second. I don't know why Streamlabs is so delayed sometimes, but Certainly not safe, but fun and economical. Well, that's good. Okay. Why is it taking so long? Sometimes it shows up before the super chat shows up, and other times it shows up later. Ford Maverick looks pretty small and cool. I haven't checked out a Maverick in person. There it is. There you go. I had to show the Elon reacting. No one's ever activated that before. Thank you. Okay, for the Tesla fund. About Rivian, it's legit and definitely no Nikola, but the expected initial 80 billion IPO is just insanity. Keep up the good work with Telsa. Thank you, Cedric Weinstein. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. That's going to make a difference. Yeah, I agree. Rivian is legit. I just wonder if they have the financial wisdom to get through this production ramp, which I think is the hardest part of becoming a all-electric startup company, EV brand. I think that getting to the mass production phase is not the hard part. It's the ramping phase. So finding out that they're around one truck a day means that they've got a long way to go, even if deliveries have technically started. But I do think they have nailed the prototype. Their first product that they're delivering is awesome. Like, watching all those Rivian R1T videos was really satisfying, seeing all the little details like the 110 outlets and the air compressor and the gear tunnel space, and you can access the gear tunnel from the cabin, and the flashlight and the Bluetooth speaker and the powered frunk. Like, there was so many great things about it where I was like, if the Cybertruck ends up being way more expensive than we think, if it runs into a situation where it's like, okay, the 300-mile Cybertruck is actually $60,000, and the 500-mile Cybertruck is actually $80,000, and they don't make a smaller one because the demand for the Cybertruck is through the roof and all that, I could see a future where I would rather buy a Rivian than a Cybertruck. I know that sounds crazy because obviously I still prefer... I like the way both of them look. I feel like they're going for completely different styles, but they both catered to the style they were going for very well. But I appreciate the utility and the durability of the Cybertruck. I have a hard time visualizing buying one unless they make a small one, which Elon has referenced on occasion. He's every once in a while been like, hey, we might make a Wolverine edition Cybertruck that's better suited for countries overseas and that kind of thing. But I have a feeling they're not going to prioritize that trim because the demand for the current size Cybertruck is already through the roof. Like, they're just going to be trying to catch up on the orders for that for years. It's probably going to be like 4 to 5 years before they actually catch up on Cybertruck demand, because right now there's been over 1 million reservations, and I understand probably 50 to 60% of those won't turn into orders because I know a ton of people that have ordered more than one. And a lot of people will think they have the money for the truck, and then by the time it's ready, they won't have the money, or they'll have changed their mind, or they'll cancel their order for some other electric vehicle. But still, I also think there will be a huge wave of Cybertruck orders as soon as the Cybertruck starts delivering. There's a huge number of people out there that are probably like somewhat interested in the Cybertruck, but they're not going to reserve one until it's out. And once it's out and people are driving it and it's real, then they'll be like, oh, okay, this is actually really cool. I'll have to get one. And there'll be another big spike in demand when the Cybertrucks start delivering. So it's just going to take a long, long time before you can just buy a Cybertruck and get it within a few months. How about a Ford electric Maverick truck? I don't know why they necessarily wanted to start with the F-150 Lightning. I mean, I guess for Ford's position, you want insane demand that you can't catch up on. I guess that kind of looks good for the brand, and you know that every truck you build, you'll be able to sell. But I think that would have been the same case with the Rivian and the Maverick, and I think that efficiency-wise, your truck is probably going to do much better with an electric if it's smaller, at least in the short term. I know long term we need all trucks to become electric, but an electric Ranger or an electric Maverick probably would have been far more efficient and have far greater range and still had great practicality. Like, I bet a ton of people would have bought that instead. Maybe the cost of the battery packs would have made it still fairly expensive and impractical. Like, you don't want to charge F-150 pricing for a truck that's objectively smaller. But I would have been interested, to be honest, if they would have come out with like I'm not sure how much cheaper it could have been, but $35,000 electric Maverick. I would have been like, dang, that's kind of cool. That's really cheap. Let's see. In the 80s, my friend's Toyota truck was awesome. Oh, yeah, sorry, I read that earlier. The trucks will easily coexist with all the demand. I'm sure they'll coexist. Yeah, I don't believe any electric vehicle right now is going to have a hard time selling with no demand. Like, personally, I don't understand why that many people are interested in buying Nissan Leafs or Chevy Bolts, but they still sell. I still see them. Chevy Bolt is the most popular non-Tesla I see driving around in my area. There's quite a few of them, despite all of their problems and all of the bad press they've gotten. But that's true. There's dealer markups. For Maverick entry trim, you get hybrid engine and Android Apple CarPlay at $20,000. Yeah, I still think anything over $10,000 that has a combustion engine is not worth it. I'm not going to recommend anybody buy. Like, you can find a decent $7,000 gas truck from a few years ago. Like, don't be dropping $20,000. Don't be dropping $20,000 on things that need oil changes. The UK is banning the selling of new gas cars from 2030, so the old companies got to move quick. Yeah, I hope so. But I think car ownership is lower there anyway. Do you think legacy automakers will ever catch up to Tesla's software? That's the thing. I have a hard time visualizing that, considering how slow they're getting right now. Like, no other legacy automaker has come up with anything remotely similar to Sentry Mode, and yet now Tesla's bringing freaking live streaming to Sentry Mode. Like, I don't think so. They got to be dropping some mad money or buying out some huge software divisions, or probably the best thing they could do is buy or partner with Apple or Google so that Apple has more complete control over the car. I think I saw, or Google, it doesn't matter who, just a company that's more specialized in software, because the legacy automaker software is unimpressive. Like, there's a very clear and noticeable gap between the software performance of when I tried out the Ford Mach-E, when I reviewed the VW ID4. I just toyed around with the software a little bit, and I was like, yeah, this feels like car software, like you're used to. It's like the basics, and they didn't really put a ton of thought into it. It just kind of tells you where to go and not much else, and there's very little thought put into the OS. But when you get in a Tesla, it suddenly makes far more sense. It feels like a continued experience, like the way you'd use your iPad or you use your phone. That same kind of software layout and experience is brought to the car. So, yeah, I still see a very noticeable gap between legacy auto software and Tesla software. Rivian seems to be closer. They still seem pretty laggy, though, and fairly choppy from the first-hand experiences I've seen. I hope that improves with the software update, but honestly, I don't have a lot of faith that it will. I know I've seen a lot of people reviewing Rivians that are giving them the benefit of the doubt, that are like, so the software isn't quite there yet. It's kind of laggy, and it's not at the same fluidity and user friendliness as Tesla. But maybe with a software update, that'll improve. I'm kind of like, usually when the OS is really choppy and laggy like that, and I know how long Rivian has been working on their prototypes and how long they've been working on this vehicle, and they kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, that's usually a CPU and GPU problem. I hate to bring that up, but if it's laggy now, it's probably going to be laggy for the next few years. I have a hard time believing that these first production models that YouTubers and stuff are trying out, they're laggy now, but they'll suddenly roll out a software update and suddenly it'll be smooth, clean interaction with the maps and stuff. I don't know. I don't think it's as simple as just like, we'll go into the OS and make it less laggy. Like, I don't software updates are good at like adding or rearranging things, or like we're changing the way this menu looks, or we're going to change how this feature works. Like, okay, we can roll out an update. Now you can roll down the windows, or now you can live stream from the cameras. That's the kind of thing I can see coming out within an update, but general lagginess, not so much. Yeah, hopefully Rivian produces more vehicles a day. Miller Asa says, I was so happy when my wife one day said we'll never get a nice car again. I'm a tech guy and I love tech in future. No gas guzzler crap in my house within the next 5 to 10 years. For now, only as backup. Yeah, my hope is that we can get rid of our Hyundai as soon as we get the Tesla. We might hold on to it for just a little bit in case there's some major quality control problems and we got to drop it off at Tesla service for a while. But yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. As I hope I never have to buy another gas car again. I don't think I will at this point. The Hyundai is fine. There's not any tremendous issues with it. We might get it checked out in the next month or so. But we're taking good care of it. We're not driving it that much. The only chance Legacy Auto has is to license Tesla's tech and just slap their badge on it. It's not a bad idea. I think they would get a lot of street cred if they did that. I think for a lot of prideful reasons, there's a lot of Legacy Auto that doesn't want to advertise, you know, our car runs Tesla Autopilot, or our car uses Tesla supercharging. There's probably a lot of Legacy Auto that's like, I don't want that title on me. But honestly, I think it's a good idea, like for the long term of the company. Like, look at what Hertz is doing. They just announced they're going to buy 100,000 Teslas, and their stock shot up like 10 or 12% or something like that. And people are like, oh, Hertz is smart. The Tesla fan base is huge. And there's a lot of very logical, very wise people that are all on board this Tesla is the future train, and Tesla's going to outsell everyone eventually. So if you're wise enough to admit that with your brand and your company and say, we're going to buy Tesla's this or Tesla's that, it will give you a lot of affirmation from the Tesla fan base. And I know that I personally would be far more interested in non-Teslas if they were running Tesla software or access the supercharger network. Like, if you could get a VW ID4 and you knew it would have autopilot and the full self-driving computer and maybe even the Tesla OS, and they just got to tinker it a little bit to make it more VW, and it has access to the supercharging network, they're selling those things for $40,000, and they've got 260 miles of range. I'd buy that if you gave it all the Tesla perks, which is the software, the charging, and the autonomy. I'd be a big fan of that. Norway has over 80% BEVs sold. I heard last month it took about 7 years to reach this point. Yeah, smaller countries and smaller by population. I mean, smaller populations can adapt to new standards much faster than bigger populations, so it makes sense. But yeah, the biggest problem with being a Tesla fan is being a Tesla fan. You can't shut up about it. Wish I was normal sometimes. I know how you feel, 70. I'm in that same boat. I keep bringing it up to random people in social circles or friends or family members. I'm like, well, you know, these new 4680 batteries are going to change a lot. You know, I can't help it. I have to bring it up. My sister was a manager for VW Germany and America for 3 years, and she told me till this day they still have electrical issues. Manager for their engineering team. Oh, wow. That's a shame. Let's see. Hydrogen cars seem less convenient to me, as you still need to go and fill them up at a gas station. Yeah, it doesn't really, it's not more convenient because people don't have hydrogen stored at their house. I mean, in a state that you can put it into a car, whereas you can charge a EV from your house, which is why our current gas car can go 450 miles on a full tank. And we live fairly close to a gas station. So it's something my wife does bring up pretty regularly. I mean, she's into the Tesla and she wants one and she's on board with it, but she's always like 450 miles of range, which EV can do that? And I was like, maybe the Lucid Air, but yeah, it doesn't hold up as an argument as well. So I kind of push back with her a tad bit sometimes, where I'm like, you know, sometimes obviously we leave the house and we don't have a full tank because we don't have gasoline at home, and the Sonata's at like 200 miles of range or 300 miles of range, and I'm like, only 200. if we had a Model Y, we could go further right now because it would be charging from home. And she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Wore a Tesla shirt today and couldn't shut up about it to people. I actually got a gift a few years back. I've received a lot of Tesla gifts in the past. Like, this was from my cousin. This was from my dad. This was from Mike, who's in the chat. I have all this Tesla stuff. I haven't bought any of it. None of this I paid for. It's all just because people know I'm into Tesla. But my sister and my brother-in-law bought me a Tesla shirt a few years back. So it's just a T-shirt that says Tesla. But I've often kind of found it awkward and weird to wear in public because I obviously don't own one. So I'm like getting out of my Hyundai Sonata with a Tesla, or sometimes I'll walk to a place, or I'll be walking down the street or something, and I'm wearing a Tesla shirt, and people are like, "Where's your Tesla? Why are you walking everywhere?" EV can start from 100% every day. That's true, especially if it's lithium iron phosphate. If it's 2170s, probably want to start it at 80 or 90% every day. But gas car, if I leave it with a near empty tank, it will be a near empty tank no matter how long it's parked in my garage. Sister worked for Toyota for a year after VW, and she said Toyota of Japan are very traditional and set in their ways. I've heard that as well. They didn't, from what I've read, they don't seem to be that interested in electric, despite, in my opinion, it being the clear, obvious future standard for vehicles. Also, EV ranges improve faster than gas ranges. EVs will have superior range soon. I feel like some of them already do. Like, there's a lot of EVs that are already topping or matching gas vehicles, and we've reached that within a relatively short amount of time. So the only reason for EV range to improve is if people aren't buying enough of them. And right now, there's too many people ordering Teslas and other EVs with ranges that are worse than gas cars because they have figured it out. It's like, it doesn't matter if the range is lower. You can charge from home, or you can just supercharge when you need to on a road trip. It's not that big a deal. Would you get a standard range Model Y if it's out by late next year? Same 244-mile range. Yeah, that range is good for me, particularly if it's LFP. That would be like a no-brainer to me. But I would be slightly hesitant to get a 2170 Model Y standard range just because I know we're going to hold on to it for a long time. But honestly, I think I still would. I'd probably still get it because I've kept up with a lot of long-term reviews of people that have owned standard range Teslas for a long, long time, and they don't have many complaints. There's not oh my God, this is so terrible, I can't live with the range. It's like, yeah, you just got to stop on road trips a bit more frequently. Whatever. It's a Tesla, so when I'm stopped at a supercharger charging, I'll just watch Netflix, or I'll watch YouTube. I'll just hang out, or a live stream, talk to you guys. So if like I did the Tesla trip planner, and I've checked with a better route planner as well to see the time differences on like a 700 or 800 mile road trip. Long range versus standard range saves you like an hour. So it's like $10,000 more, and you save an hour on a road trip. I don't care. As long as I can still get where I need to go, I'll take the longer road trip. I'm going for enjoying the ride, not making great time. Filling your gas tank all the way increases car weight and decreases fuel efficiency too. Yeah, but that goes both ways. I'm not a fan of gas cars, but just, you got to be fair. That means the car gets lighter as it gets lower on fuel, whereas an EV weighs the same even with low range. Are you going to wait for Texas Model Y when you buy a Tesla? In a way, we kind of are. I mean, right now, the limiting factor is not Texas. It's more the Tesla fund. So we have a little bit over $15,000 saved so far. But thanks to you guys supporting over on Patreon and super chatting and becoming channel members, this is all helping us get to that future sooner. But the reason we haven't ordered a Model Y, I guess you could say, because some people are like, reserve your place in line. And, there was somebody responding to my comment yesterday that said you can delay your Tesla delivery up to 6 months. So even if they say your car is ready and you don't have the money, you can just push it back further. But the 4680 Model Y coming out of Texas, I do think will change up the lineup quite a bit. I'm not exactly sure how it will change, But I have a belief that there will be more variety and more affordability in the Model Y lineup next year, because Elon keeps saying it'll be the best-selling car by revenue in 2022 and the best-selling car by unit volume in 2023. So there's got to be some changes coming. I don't see that happening with just a $57,000 long-range option and one performance tier. So I don't really see a point in locking in the current Model Y specs, because the specs aren't very good. I don't have much use in locking in a $57,000 Model Y with 2170 cells. It's like, that's okay. And if it doesn't get any cheaper, then we'll have a different conversation. We'll see how Aptera is doing. We'll look at Model 3 maybe. But yeah, I would get a 244 mile range Model Y. Range is not that important for my use case. It's not that important. Biggest issue with range I see is cold weather. I'm scared I won't be able to go see my grandparents in winter because they are 200 miles round trip with no superchargers on the way. Yeah, there should be other, like Mike is saying, there should be other EVgo or other public chargers. But yeah, I guess that just wait for more superchargers, I suppose. Hopefully there will be more in the future. 450, my ICE car gets 200 average. Really? I've never heard of a gas car getting 200 miles of range. That's pretty low. We had a car that we sold a few years ago. It was a Chevy Aveo from 2010, and I think that got 330 miles of range on a full tank, so about the same as a long-range EV. My bet is Model Y will cost $39,000 in 2023, maybe. With inflation, I don't see that happening, but obviously the cheaper the better. You know, if they can get it under 55,000, we'll be happy. That's kind of what we're anticipating. That's when we estimate our timelines and we look at our savings. Like, I'm planning for a Model Y that's around 55 grand, but obviously if there's a lower one, we'll take that one. Rear-wheel drive, standard range, don't care. I imagine a spot in the first 1,000 Cybertruck reservations is worth as much as a new Tesla. Maybe. I'm sure the resale value on those first Cybertrucks delivered will be pretty high. However, I will just remind people, they will not deliver the Cybertrucks in order of who ordered one first. That's not what they did with the Model Y or the Model 3. It's going to go in order of closest to the factory. So I don't think Tesla is going to be like, okay, the first 100 Cybertrucks, ordered. 20 of them were in California, 20 of them were in Washington, 20 of them were in Texas, and 20 of them were in New York. So we got to get a few of those trucks out to eat. Like, they're not like iPhones, they're not like delivered chronologically. It's basically going to be who's closest to the factory who will take delivery first. I'm pretty confident, even if you ordered one now and you live close to Giga Texas, you'll probably get it way before someone who ordered it on unveiling, but they live in Kansas, or they live in Maine, or they live in Oregon or something like that. So proximity to the factory does impact when your vehicle will get delivered. Given the current pace of progress for FSD beta, when do you think Tesla will reach level 5 autonomy? Oof. I'm still not 100% convinced they will achieve it at all. Level 5 is a very difficult definition. Level 5 means it can drive anywhere a human can, like no geofences. That means on all streets humans currently drive on. Technically, that would even imply that it could drive off-road and get you where you need to. But I guess hopefully the rate of improvement changes drastically when Dojo comes on. I mean, that's what Elon seems to think is the case. I don't know why this number keeps popping up in my head, but I keep wanting to say 2030. I don't know why. That just feels very futuristic, even though every year we're 9 years away, 8 years away. Feel like a lot can change in that amount of time, and I've certainly seen FSD beta get better. I feel like I'm in the middle of where most people are on FSD. There's a bunch of people out there that are like, FSD will never be level 5. And I don't feel that way. I think there's a decent and growing chance of it being level 5. I wouldn't say it's a 100% chance. But I'm kind of aiming for level 3. That's kind of my dream, you know. Like, I think Tesla will be successful and their business will thrive and they'll be a $10 trillion company even if they never achieve level 5 and they never make robotaxis. I don't think that's a required milestone for them to succeed. I think what would be just a tremendously good selling point is level 3, which, for those who aren't aware, level 3 would just mean the driver doesn't have to pay attention on certain roads. If we got to the point where whenever you're on the freeway, you can watch a movie, you can read a book, I could get some work done. I'm not really super interested in this future where no one owns a car and we all just have to hail robotaxis everywhere we go, because that would make it a public form of transport, which some countries get public transport good, but it typically results in messiness and people don't take care of vehicles, or people don't take care of things that they don't own. So you would get weird smells and you would have to wait for robotaxis to be available. And there'd also be like surge pricing. So it's like, okay, robotaxis are pretty cheap, but suddenly there's a game going on or there's a big crowd going on or a graduation going on in town. So all the robotaxis are down there. So if I want to drive to the grocery store, I've got to pay for surge pricing. So I'm not really super into the idea of all the cars driving us everywhere. I'm a fan of the safety aspect of it, but I'm not interested in not owning my car. Like, I want to own my car and be able to get in it and treat it the way I want. But I'm okay with just owning my car and the car can drive me anywhere. And there's maybe 0.01% of times where I have to intervene because of it's a weird parking situation or it's a weird construction area. And because of the weird construction area or because of the parking being awkward or the driveway being weird where I'm going, I just have to intervene to get the car to park. But the rest of the time, it does all the driving for me. I love that idea. And I think Tesla's very much, I'm more so in the camp of like, that will eventually happen. Maybe in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm not sure how far away that is, but whenever we get to the point of Tesla starting to assume a bit more liability and risk, and Tesla starts saying, okay, you don't have to pay attention. Now you can just turn on autopilot and do what you want. You can read a book, watch a movie. I could edit some videos. I could live stream. As soon as I don't have to pay attention, to me, like, that's great. Like, if they come up with something more advanced than that, cool, but I'm not that interested. I would rather own a car that can drive itself than hail taxis that drive themselves, basically. That's less interesting to me. Logan says, my safety score is 95. What's your best estimate on when I get beta? At this point, it seems like they're waiting like 2 weeks between each. Well, hold on. Elon was commenting on this. We should report on it live as it's happening. Elon was commenting on this recently, though. I think right before I went live. Let me find it. Oh, he's memeing. Oh yeah, he mentioned that you can talk from the external speaker in your car. So if you look at the Sentry Mode live view, you can see what's around the vehicle. You can hold down a button on the app and speak out of it and tell the people, hey, get away from my car. You're being recorded. That's so cool. Like, no one is close to that. But anyway, here's what Elon said. Basically, Holmar's catalog said FSD beta 10.3.1 drive from Safeway parking lot to another in San Francisco with 0 disengagements. So that's great. And then below that, he said FSD AI team is doing great work. We'll get superhuman good in upcoming releases. I feel like he said this a million times, but we will slow down upload rate of releases going forward. First from QA fleet to employ cars for a day, then slowly releasing at around 1,000 cars per hour to external beta on Friday after. And then Jason, long range rear wheel drive Model Y, said, when will 98 score be added? And he said, tentative plan is 98 and above starts uploading Friday afternoon next week. So not this Friday, but the following Friday. If we see any concerns, uploads will pause while we investigate. So might take a few days before everyone with 98 safety gets beta 10.4. 10.4 improves left turns across fast traffic and stopping for gates. So more improvements on the way, but the way I see it right now is there's like somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks by every safety score drop. So right now, 99 is qualified. So if you've got 4 points to go, look at that as another 2 months maybe before they get down to that point. So obviously you've got a better chance at upping your safety score just by driving safer than you do waiting for the beta. But I honestly think Tesla is doing this the best possible way they can. Like, obviously you can achieve self-driving much faster if you have fleet data and you have thousands and thousands of cars all testing the software and the driver's correcting it and telling it when it's making a mistake, sending those mistakes back to HQ, and they improve the software. I think you can develop self-driving much faster and much more efficiently than trying to actually hire 1,000 engineers that all go out and test the software. That's what Waymo is doing, and you can see pretty clearly, like, they've done a lot of side-by-side comparisons where they'll hail a autonomous Waymo vehicle to go somewhere, and then they'll set FSD beta to go somewhere. The beta does it much, much faster and much more efficiently, and oftentimes without intervention. Granted, the FSD beta is level 2 because you're required to pay attention, whereas Waymo doesn't require you to pay attention. So I'm not saying it's not impressive. I think there's a lot of people online, I won't drop names, but there's a lot of people online that kind of dismiss Waymo very quickly. They're just like, it sucks. Waymo's crappy. Not impressed. I'm like, I mean, I'm not trying to say it's better than FSD beta, but think about it for a second. There is a autonomous robo-taxi service in existence now where you can literally, granted, it's very geofenced, so there's not a lot of places you can do it, but it's a start. I mean, there's a lot of people that openly dismiss FSD beta too, because they turn it on and they're like, oh my God, it made a mistake. Holy crap. Why isn't this flawless? They just don't grasp that it's beta. They're like, oh my God, it got this one turn so off. Robotaxis are never going to happen. It's like, they're just looking at a very narrow view and blanket applying that to all their beliefs. But I still think it's pretty dang cool that there's a place on Earth where you can hail a vehicle on public roads that'll come drive up to you. You get inside, no one's behind the steering wheel, and it drives you to your destination. And that's it. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, Waymo is legally allowed to have driverless vehicles, but I think that the laws are allowing them in specific jurisdictions. I don't think that works everywhere. Level 5 autonomy will require us to redesign roads specifically for FSD, especially in rural areas. Won't even get close for at least 20 years. I don't think the roads will have to be redesigned. Like, I think my viewpoint will probably change a lot if Tesla Dojo goes online and we don't see any real changes within a year. Right now, I think it's safe to say Tesla has this big elaborate plan for Dojo. They're like, okay, we're totally redesigning computers and neural nets as we know them. And right now, Dojo is not online, so we're getting these incremental FSD beta updates that get a little better in some regards and they get a little worse in others, but they're still unmatched. I haven't seen any autonomous driving that's been as good as FSD beta so far, especially given how scalable it is. You can literally go and turn it on out in some middle of nowhere road and it just starts driving. No HD mapping was done and there's no LiDAR data collected. It's all just vision based. But they have this big plan for rapidly, exponentially improving software that kind of is writing itself as people are testing the software. It's improving it. And I think when Dojo comes online, we should probably give it another chance of like, okay, let's see what the rate of improvement is. FSD beta has shown some signs of improvement and other signs of regression occasionally. And we're definitely going to need another like step change before we get to the point of Tesla assuming more liability. Yeah, redesigning roads is a cheat. What is Logan saying here? It makes it easier, but you didn't really solve the initial problem. You change the problem and then solve that new problem. It's also not scalable. You changing all the roads is going to be impossible. There's just way too many roads. End-to-end control application on the operating system. Understanding Linux is important. Old car companies doesn't get used to it. Linux is changing everything. Elon knows it. Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. I think Waymo is really cool, but they're basically pre-programmed routes, so it's not really the same thing as the computer driving live. I know it's not the same thing, but it's still impressive to me. Like, from a technical level, the fact that there are robo-taxis in existence, like they're a thing, that's cool to me. Like, I would totally ride in a Waymo, and I think my mind would be blown. I know a lot of Tesla fans out there that are like, you know, FSD beta is much better. Waymo's not that impressive. I think it's okay to give credit where credit is due. It's like, that is cool. You get it. Sorry. Starlink's lagging. It's bugging. 1 sec. 1 sec. All right. Oh, I think it jumped back. Sorry about that. Looks like Dishy McFlatface was looking for a satellite and it lost signal. That was the first like big drop I've had in a long time. Anyway, I still think it's mind-blowing that there are vehicles that drive people around without anybody behind the driver's seat. And Tesla technically hasn't gotten there yet, really, on public roads. I mean, I got in my friend Randy's Model 3 and I sat in the back and then he summoned it. That was a pretty crazy sensation. Like, I always wanted to do that, but I wasn't seeing a lot of people do it. I was like, Randy, let's go to a parking lot. Let me sit in the back of the car and summon it so that I can just be in a car that is driving and moving around with no one in the driver's seat. But it's not on public roads, whereas that's what Waymo's doing. It's like other cars are around it. It's at stoplights. And yeah, it's kind of clunky that it has to do 3 right turns in order to go left because it's not good at left turns. That's less efficient, but still, just the fact that that's possible. How come Waymo cars don't want to crash into roadworks / obstacles, and how are they doing so much better than FSD in certain aspects? I think it's because it's all HD mapped. They have files on board the car, so the computer's not wasting computational or GPU on trying to render the environment around it because it knows exactly where it is in the city, and it has a high-definition map of what that environment looks like. So it can avoid obstacles because LiDAR is partially helpful, I'm sure. But in certain aspects, I'm sure LiDAR and having HD mapping does make you feel like you're ahead. But it's just a completely different task. It's a completely different muscle memory when you are driving through a road or driving through a city and you've never mapped it and you've never seen it before, and you're figuring out which lanes to get into versus you've spent weeks and probably months mapping the city, mapping the roadways, mapping objects, and now you have a LiDAR sensor that is scanning a 3D environment all around you. I think that gives you some local maximums. But the fact that Waymo doesn't want to take left turns, I would certainly look at as a pretty hard regression. Hey, Mr. Flyboy, how's it going? My boy. Thanks for tuning in. You're catching the tail end of the stream. I'm going to have to get going here pretty soon. But if Waymo don't take left turns, I retract all the praise I had for them. I still give them credit. I still think it's cool, but I'm pretty sure those Waymo vehicles are like over $100,000 worth of hardware. Like, they're very, very expensive to operate, and LiDAR is useless in the rain, which suddenly they can't be autonomous as soon as there's precipitation in the air. Where I've seen a ton of Tesla FSD beta videos in the rain, and it does pretty good. Again, in the autonomy world, nothing is flawless, so that should be acknowledged. But I've seen lots of videos of FSD beta working pretty well in the rain, whereas I've never seen Waymo work autonomously when there's rain coming. Waymo is in a playpen. FSD is in the real world. FSD has a lot more learning to do, and it will. Right. I think that the scalability of having tens of thousands of vehicles all collecting data and edge cases from a first principles approach is just far more logical than HD mapping each individual city. Mike says, my first experience with FSD beta was in the rain. That's right. Mike got the beta. We're trying to pick a date to check it out. I want to do a video with FSD beta, but Mike's busy. I'm busy. I'm not sure when exactly we're going to be able to do it, but I don't know. I'm kind of half wanting to just drive down there for a day and drive back and in the nighttime and do a whole video on it. I've got my laptop, so I could edit the video when I'm down there. But yeah, I want to check it out. I want to try it. I've never been in a full self-driving. Well, I shouldn't say full self-driving because that's not it. I don't like that name. Seriously, that's my biggest complaint. I think Tesla's doing everything right except the branding. Just call it. Don't call it full self-driving. Don't sell a software package called full self-driving. And I don't like the term FSD beta. I would prefer like self-driving beta. You know, just emphasizing the full is weird. Starlink's lagging. I think Dishy McFlatface wants me to stop streaming because I keep lagging more and more. Sorry about that. Oh, that's true. Road layouts change all the time. That's another point for FSD over Waymo. That's true. Roads are not set in stone. So if you have to remap and reprogram the software every time the city government changes the road, that's not going to work. But okay, Mike says I can come whenever. Just bring Starlink as well. I'll try to pack Dishy McFlatface with me. If Tesla used LiDAR on their cars, they wouldn't have an enemy in NHTSA trying to take them down. No, I think they would still have that. LiDAR is not really the issue. FSD is basically human simulation technology, whereas Waymo is more like the AI driving of a GTA NPC. Right. They're fundamentally very, very different approaches to the same problem, but yeah, it's almost like they shouldn't be compared. I think there's a potential market for it. Like, oh my God, Dishy, come on. It's lagging so much right now. Starlink. All right, I'm going to go clean the dish. Be right back. Okay, I think that fixed it. I washed it off. I think it actually worked. Anyway, Variety Entertainment is asking, how did we meet? Just like this. I went live. I think it was the first ever Telsa EV live stream. I was just like, hey, everyone, we've never done a live stream on this channel before. I should do one. And then Mike was like, hey, I've got a Model Y. If you want to meet up, let me know. So I went live, and that's how we met. And we met up, and we were good friends, and we started hanging out more and realized we had other subjects that we like talking about together. So now we're podcast buddies, and hopefully in the future we'll be Model Y buddies. I'll be Model Y Drew. I have zero problems with the FSD name. It's just a name. Ford Mustang is not a wild horse. Yeah, but it's a car, whereas if you're calling a car full self-driving and it's not full self-driving, you know. I understand that Mustang is not a horse, but it's like symbolic of the horse. So that full self-driving is not trying to be symbolic. I feel like that's different. Yeah, quick shirt change. But hey, thanks again to our executive and enhanced Tesla fund people. So you can get your name in the credits for $10 a month. You can get your name on the board for $25 a month, and I'll collab with you for $100 a month. I was not expecting that many people to sign up for those tiers. They actually ended up being more popular than the $10 a month plan, which is kind of mind-boggling. But I've got an EV video going live very, very shortly. In fact, you know what? What if I dropped it right now? It's Cybertruck related, and why are checks still running? For some reason, it doesn't have any restrictions listed yet. That's weird. Okay, sorry. I guess I can't drop it right now. I'm going to wait until YouTube approves it. But thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye.